The audience is going to be very excited about this. Very excited. There has been some thawing at the wall, and Tim Kirkshin makes his triumphant return to our airwaves. Timmy! Yes! Tim.
He's so uncomfortable.
Tim.
Too much pressure. I can't live up to this. I didn't do anything. Oh, God.
Tim. Tim.
Stop it. Just ask me a question.
Okay, very good. Who's the best team in baseball, according to Tim Kirkshin?
I think the Dodgers are the best team. You look at their ERA, it's going to be the lowest of any team in years. You look at their batting average against, it's going to be the second lowest in the history of the game in a season. Their offense is great. They lead the league in runs scored. They're going to throw 3, probably 4 starting pitchers at you in the postseason, where I'm not sure how you get through, Urias, Scherzer, Buehler, and Kershaw. I think they're the best team. The Giants are really good, but the Dodgers are the best team, if you ask me.
Tim, were you expecting anything close to this out of the San Francisco Giants?
No, I did not have them as a playoff team. I had them as a 500 team, but they're just following the formula, fellas. They throw strikes and they swing really hard at strikes, and that's how you win in today's game. They've got 10 guys with 10 or more homers. They can beat you 1 through 8 with the long ball. Their pitching is really good. Kevin Gausman is an ace. And they're way, way better than I thought. Again, the beauty of baseball is every year there's one team that comes out of nowhere and makes the playoffs. This team came out of nowhere, and they're going to win 106 games maybe. That's remarkable.
Who's got the best pitching headed into the playoffs?
Well, again, there's some really good teams out there. The Dodgers, I think, have the best pitching in baseball. But the Brewers, with those 3 starting pitchers that nobody can hit when they're right, and those 2 relievers at the end of the game, Williams and Hader, they might have the best 5 pitchers going into the playoffs. And remember, the Nationals won the World Series in 2019, basically using like 5 or 6 pitchers only. And those guys ate up all the innings, pitched all the important innings. And that's why the Brewers are dangerous, is if you're going to see those 3 starters and they can get you to Williams and Hader, that's a pretty interesting group. So there's great pitching everywhere. And of course, the Rays always have great pitching, and you never know how you're going to deal with them, because relievers are starters and starters are relievers. So there's really good pitching heading into the postseason.
What would you have said to me before the season if I said the Brewers this year without Christian Yelich are going to be playoff good, pitching dominant good?
Wouldn't have seen it. He just went 29 games in a row without hitting a home run, and they're winning this division easily. That simply can't happen. I didn't see the Brewers being this good or close to this good when the season began. But those 3 pitchers have gotten, Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta have gotten better and better every start this year. So, and I have an NL MVP vote this year, and I can't even figure out who the MVP of the Brewers is. And they're still winning their division easily, and still a very dangerous team in October. So it's a fascinating team to watch.
Timmy, who's the American League team that if they met the Dodgers in the World Series would give them the toughest series?
Well, I still think it's the Rays, because the Rays are the best team in the American League for me. Just the way they play the game, it's corny, but they don't make mistakes. They don't give outs away. They hit the ball out of the ballpark. They strike people out. They play the game better than any team in the major leagues. They don't have as many good players, but their 25th player is better than anybody else's 25th player. Their 20 through 25 are clearly better than any other 20 through 25 out there because everyone on that team plays and everyone is a good player. I learned this from doing the Rangers many, many years ago. They had like the 5 best players in the game all together, with Ryan and Gonzalez and Pudge and Palmeiro. But after that, they weren't very good. This is the strength of the Rays is 25 guys on their team can beat you, and no other team is built quite like them.
Tim, what has happened in baseball this year that has most enraged you?
Enraged is way too strong, but again, the strikeout rate, fellas, we've been over this for 10 years, especially the last 5 years. The strikeout rate is just too high, and it upsets me that we have too many strikeouts. And it upsets me that our players today are bigger, stronger, faster, and better than ever, and they run the bases worse than I've ever seen in the 42 years that I've covered. There is no excuse for running the bases and not having a feel for the game like we seen this year and in recent years. But this year has been ridiculous. The number of plays that I've seen where I just slapped my forehead. Mr. Keene would have taken me off the field when I was 16 years old. If I had made some of the mistakes that the big leaguers made, he would have taken me out of the game. And I was 16, and these guys are big leaguers. It can't happen, and that's the one thing that upsets me. We got to do a better job understanding how to play the game.
Tell me more about Mr. Keene.
Everything, actually.
All right, he recently died. He was my coach growing up. My dad was my coach, of course, but he was the real coach, Mr. Keene, and he was tough to play for. He was tough to deal with, but when he died less than a year ago, his son, who I played with all those years, just called me and we talked about it, that Mr. Keene made us all better. He screamed at us and he made us feel terrible certain days, but he made us better players. And he used to also open the gym on Sunday mornings at Walter Johnson High School where I went. I don't know how he did it, but he opened the gym and just brought, some kids, including me, into play every Sunday morning at a high school gym when I was like 10 years old. That's where my true love for basketball developed, from Mr. Keene. So my father taught me everything I need to know about baseball and basketball, but Mr. Keene made things happen that gave us more places to play and to practice.
He had a keen eye for talent, is that right?
He did, and he was a left-handed thrower and a right-handed hitter. And that always fascinated me, like Ricky Henderson. And I always thought, why is Mr. Keene like this? But he was he was a great athlete himself. So when you did something poorly, he could show you how to do it. He would say, here's how you hit that ball on the inside part of the plate. Here's how you throw your curveball. And he was just great because he could teach us how to do it because he was such a great athlete.
Did he teach you how to bunt?
Yeah, he did. We would all wrap our fingers around the bat, and he would teach us you can't bunt that way, and he showed us the proper way to bunt. And by the way, let's go over this again. None of you guys could ever get a bunt down in a major league game against Garrett Cole. It's impossible.
I could lay one down.
Yeah, me too.
I absolutely can.
Need to remind you.
He would buzz the tower, then you would be done because you'd be too afraid. But even if he didn't, you could not get a bunt down against Garrett Cole, period.
Tim, easily. I could get a bunt down.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Just stick the bat out there,
Tim, you're this baseball historian, so maybe you've heard of the 1998 West Kendall Optimist Seattle Mariners. We were undefeated, my friend. I went by Billy Bunt because that's what I would do. Bunt. Undefeated.
But Billy, the big difference is you couldn't hit. Everybody today can hit. Everybody today can hit the ball out of the ballpark. So they're not about to give up an out with a bunt, potential out, when they have a chance to hit a 3-run homer. And the industry is telling them, we don't want you to bunt because you might hit a 3-run homer. So yes, back in the late 90s, all sorts of people knew how to bunt. But since then, since all we care about is hitting the ball out of the ballpark, no one is taught to bunt. And then when they don't get a bunt down in October at the most important time, we wonder, why can't you bunt? Well, we didn't bunt from April through September. How in the world are we going to get something down in October?
Bingo.
It's a damn shame the game's lost the bunt. Am I right, Tim?
Yeah, I I used to love to watch Rod Carew bunt. He's the best bunter I've ever seen. Brett Butler was
Better
a
than
great
Juan
bunter.
Pierre?
Juan Pierre was a great bunter, but Rod
Top 5
Carew's the
bunters.
best.
Top 5 bunters.
Tim's
Let's
top
do
5
it. Hold on.
bunters.
We got to
Let's
do
go.
it from the
Wow,
bottom
top
to the
5.
top. A top 5 list is broken out
Bunters.
of
Wow, we
nowhere.
know half of
We
them, though,
are
so.
targeting Tim
Tim's
Kirkshin's
top 7.
top
bunters.
5 bunters. Why top 7?
Well, because we know 1 and 2 already. He gave
I mean,
us those.
you're
yeah.
assuming that Juan Pierre
Yes.
was in his top 5.
JP.
Right.
Top 7.
Yeah.
Okay, top 7 bunters
Maybe
according
8.
to Tim Kirkshin. You know Brett Butler's going to make an appearance somewhere on this list. Number 7, Tim Kirkshin.
All right, Vic Davalillo was number 7.
Yes.
Old
Yes.
Vic, yeah.
He would drag the ball down the first base line better than anyone. And I still think a drag bunt
Oh,
can only be achieved by a left-handed hitter because you are dragging the ball
Yes.
towards first base. When a
Right.
right-handed hitter drops a bunt down the third baseline, I do not refer to that as a drag bunt because you're not dragging it to first. So
Right.
Vic Davalillo was the best I've ever seen at dragging the ball to first base.
Dragging it.
Number 6.
Hold on a
is-
second.
when
Hold
you're
on,
drag,
hold on.
When you're drag bunting, you're going for a hit, right? That's the deal. You're going
Yes,
for a hit.
and when you're dropping a bunt down the third baseline and you're clearly bunting for a hit, yes, that is. But I don't call it a drag bunt. I say he dropped a bunt down the third baseline. So it's semantics, but that's
It's
just the
not
way I look.
semantics. That's the verb. Guillermo, put it on the poll. Can you drag a bunt if you're not doing it left-handed? Number 6, Tim.
Number 6 is Paul Blair. I grew up watching him on the Orioles,
Yep.
and nobody, and I mean no right-handed hitter has ever dropped a bunt down the third baseline better than Paul Blair. He hit it. You didn't even know he was going to bunt. And then he got the bat out in front of him. That's how you drop a bunt down the third baseline as a right-handed hitter. Instead of behind you, he would drop a bunt down the third baseline better than any right-handed hitter I've ever seen.
Number 5.
Number 5 is Eddie Collins. He holds the major league record for most. He's a Hall of Famer, lifetime well over 300.
Wow.
He had 511 sacrifice bunts in his career.
Wow. What
No
an
one else-
achievement.
No one
That's
else has ever had
fantastic.
400 sacrifice bunts.
Whoa.
Eddie.
511, and Frank Thomas had over 10,000 plate appearances and has the most plate appearances ever without a sacrifice bunt. So Eddie Collins, number 5.
He is back.
Tim, we can agree that sacrifice bunt and bunting for hits, totally different skill sets.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yes, Rod Carew was not bunting to move anyone over. He was bunting to get a hit. We'll get to him in a minute.
Number 4. Yes,
Well,
we
little
will.
teaser.
I love that he's been waiting for this list his entire life. Number 4.
And number 4 is, again, from my childhood, Tommy McCraw.
Oh, yeah.
Who did some pretty good things
That's
for
the
the White
one.
Sox and became the hitting coach for the Orioles. I'm not making this up, fellas. I watched him at least 3 times as a kid literally throw his bat at a ball, deaden it. As he's running to first, he literally flips his bat at the ball, made it go in fair territory, and got a hit. And there was not even close play at first because he's already running to first when he literally throws the bat at the ball. I saw him do that 3 times when he was a young player and I was a young kid.
If you're named Tommy McGraw, you were born to bunt. I mean, that goes
It's
without
Tommy
saying.
McCraw. with a
Whatever.
C.
Yeah.
Tommy
Even
McGraw.
better.
Love of God.
Tommy Mac.
I mean,
Yep.
before we get to number
Born
3,
to bunts.
real quick, I need the audience to understand as we're in the middle of this how difficult this is as an entertainment achievement. Tim Kirkshin is talking about players that you do not know, and there has to be. You're obligated to have a giant smile on your face. Number 3, Tim Kirkshin.
Well, number 3, and you guys gave it to me, but he was always in the top 3, is Juan Pierre. So in Philadelphia, I want to say 15 years ago at the old stadium, I got to a game at 12:30. The game started at 7. Of course, I'm the only one in the ballpark, but I get there because I have work to do. And Juan Pierre is out on the field at the old vet, and he at 12:30 in the afternoon for a 7 o'clock start, and he is rolling balls down the third baseline.
Oh.
It was the first game of the series. And I asked him, like, before the game, what were you doing at 12:30? He goes, well, every ballpark is different. I'm a great bunter. I'm going to bunt tonight. So I needed to roll the ball down the third baseline and see which direction it was rolling, because certain teams would actually, doctor the third base line if they knew a good bunting team was in, and they would fix the dirt. So if you rolled it on the dirt, it would roll into foul territory because they knew a good bunting team was in. So Juan Pierre is number 3 because he was rolling bunts down the third baseline at 12:30 in the afternoon.
Gym rat.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Can you be a gym rat in baseball? Have you ever had a work ethic that you've seen in that sport better than Juan Pierre's? Can you name anybody ever? Because it's the best one I've seen in that sport.
Well, Ichiro was pretty high on the list, and the times he would hit, he would have to hit at a certain time every day. And the way he took care of his equipment, he never, ever threw his bat. If you ever watch him making out, he never threw it. He never jammed it into the bat rack. He took care of his bats. He once told me, he said, a good carpenter would never throw his best hammer anywhere. You treat your bats like gold because they're your livelihood. So he never threw his bats around, and his work ethic was ridiculously high.
Number 2.
Well, Brett Butler is number 2 for me because he was a little guy. In fact, I once asked him where he got his number from, why he wore number 2. And he once told me that everyone told him he was too small to play because he's a little guy. Probably weighed 150 when he played in the big league. So he always had a 2 on his back because everyone told him he was too small to play all those years. And he also wore number 2, he told me, because he's the smallest guy in the field, and any sort of big number would look stupid on his back. So he also told me that he bunted, I'd never looked this up, successfully 48% of the time. So people talk all the time, why would you give up an out? When he bunted, he got a bunt single 48% of the times that he bunted. And he used to tell the young guys on the Marlins, including D. Gordon, would you take, D. Gordon says, I'm not giving up an out by bunting. And Brett Butler said, hey, if you can get on 48% of the time by bunting, wouldn't you do it? And he said, well, of course I would. Well, that's how Brett Butler got D. Gordon to bunt a little bit more often.
And he was so skilled, they called him Brent Buntler. Is that right?
No.
Yeah, it was
Brett Buntler.
No, they didn't. But I watched
should've.
him. I can't tell you how many times before games I watched him practice that. He would be out there by himself on the field practicing his bunting all by himself, just him and a coach, and he would be pushing them down the third base line, and to repeat, dragging them down. Third base line, he'd push it, drag it down the first base line.
You're being belligerent with this incessant dragging.
it's important.
It is. You need to calm down because you're being aggressive with it. And while I've missed you, I have not missed this part of your personality, which is always unpleasant and combative and covered in barbed wire.
Okay, that was Brett Butler, number 2.
Number 1, you already told us, a little bit of anticlimax. Regardless, you can weave a tapestry on whoever number 1 is.
Well, Rod Carew is one of the great hitters of all time, lifetime, 328, greatest number 29 of all time. And that's a pretty interesting list there with John Smoltz and some others. But I saw Rod Carew. He once told me years ago that he could bunt a ball into a bucket, a pail that you could put on the field, and he could bunt a ball into the pail. And I thought he meant, you put the pail on the ground. He said, no, the pail could be standing up, on its regular feet, and he could bounce a bunt into a bucket. I've never saw him do it, but he said he did that. He's done that before. That's how good he was at bunting. So you look at those years, when he hit, 390, 385, whatever he hit, it's because he would get a bunch of bunt hits every year.
Wow.
Tim, who is the best bunting pitcher of all time, and
Good
why is it
question.
Greg Maddux?
Well, Greg Maddux was the best all-round pitcher in every single way. So he was a good hitting pitcher. He was a really good bunter. He was the best fielding pitcher I've ever seen, better even than Jim Cott, which is really saying something. And this is really deep inside baseball. He never threw a pitch straight if he didn't want to. But on the 1-6-3 double play, Walt Weiss, who was the shortstop in Atlanta, told me that Greg Maddux threw the straightest ball to second base on the 1-6-3 double play of any pitcher ever. So here Greg Maddux is throwing a pitch with a grip that is going to intentionally move in some direction. And yet, bouncer back to him, he adjusts his grip and throws the straightest ball ever to the shortstop for the 1-6-3 double play. That's why Greg Maddux was the pitcher that he was, is every part of the game he was great at, except holding runners. He didn't care about holding runners because he used to always say, the most important guy is the guy at the plate. If you worry too much about that guy at first, you're not going to get the guy out at the plate. And he said, and if he steals second, I don't care because I'm getting the next guy out anyway.
Tim, has there been a slugger, a home run hitter, who was great at bunting?
Well, Jackie Robinson wasn't exactly a slugger, but he had, I believe it was 28 sacrifice bunts his rookie year. So he wins the Rookie of the Year. He has a great season. And granted, the game was completely different in 1947. But you don't think of Jackie Robinson and think that he had 28 sacrifice bunts. He was a great bunter in every way. Not too many, and again, power hitters today wouldn't even consider bunting at all. And this is off the topic as always, but Shohei Ohtani had a 2 triple game the other day at a time when he had 45 homers. So I checked the last time anybody who had a 40 homer season had 2 triples in one game, and it was David Ortiz in 2004. And before that, it was Brady Anderson in 1995. So I found it odd that a guy with 45 homers would get 2 triples in one game, but that's because Ohtani is one of the fastest players in baseball.
Would Steve Garvey be the closest thing to a power hitter who was also a great bunter?
Yeah, he could drop it down the third base line pretty well.
I love how obsessed. I love
the
how
best.
obsessed
The
we
best.
are with bunting.
Garvey was good.
He was, but we're
Fascinating.
talking 1970s baseball. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Steve Garvey wasn't a classic power hitter. He didn't even hit 300 homers, but he was a great bunter. But again, back in those days, people were asked to bunt. I watched a game in '86 in Baltimore, covered it, when Wally Joyner, who was in the middle of Wally world, the height of his greatness as a rookie, he bunted in the first inning for the Angels. And he's hitting third in the lineup. In the first inning, he dropped the sacrifice bunt because Gene Mauch always thought, we're going to get ahead, and the team that gets ahead usually wins, and that's how they did it. So, but we don't bunt anymore. That's obvious.
I hereby call upon Major League Baseball to inaugurate a bunting award, an annual bunting award that's to be named in honor of Tim Kirchin, and the winner receives a bunt cake.
You are on an
It's
amazing
done.
hot streak of just remarkably shitty jokes. Just breathtaking.
Keep 'em coming.
Breathtaking in being purposely bad jokes. Tim, have you ever given anyone the middle finger?
I did in a car once.
Yeah.
I told you guys
Once.
I'm not as patient in a car as I should be. But there was a guy behind me with his brights on, and come on,
worst.
it's nighttime. The brights are so you can barely see out of the car, and he's just purposely putting his brights on behind me. And when he passed me, I I had to let him know that's unacceptable.
Do you go
So,
out the
yeah,
window?
That might be the only time.
Tim, do you go out the window with the bird, or is the bird staying inside the window?
No, I'm not opening the window. He's going to get the message with the window closed.
Was it above the window? I mean,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he saw it, and I'm pretty sure he didn't care. But I think to be considerate and respectful of other people, you shouldn't drive with your brights on right behind somebody else when it's not necessary.
Do you go thumb out or tucked thumb?
Tucked thumb.
Side saddle, or
Please
just
say yes.
one independent
Let's see it,
finger
Tim.
telling
Whip it out.
someone to bleep off?
give us the finger.
Give it to us.
No, I'm not going to give it to you. I think you do have to
Give it to me,
thrust
Tim.
it forward
Right.
to show how angry you are, as
Yes.
opposed to just this, like, hey, I don't care. I'm just going to, you got to really like,
But is
move
it just
right at
one
him.
finger that's out there, or the two knuckles side saddle on the neck? You know, do we have on the sides there? Are you raising
Yeah.
the index finger and the ring
Show
finger?
us with your ring finger.
Give us the finger, Tim.
It's an uppercut motion, right, Tim?
Right. I would go like this. Now, you guys know how big my hands are, so I have really long fingers for a tiny little old man. So my middle finger is well seen, especially when it is thrust at another person.
Wow.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate the analysis.
How did it feel, Tim?
I was not. That was not a satisfying feeling. I was not real happy with my performance. It was not necessary, but he should not have had his brights on right behind me.
I imagine that you're riddled with guilt and that it doesn't leave like in minutes. It's going to sit there for a couple of hours because your rage got the best of you. And I imagine that that's a guilt that you carry.
Not anymore. I mean, it was 10 years ago, so
No,
I'm not
let
no,
it go.
I don't
Wow.
mean today. I just mean, how long does that stay with you when you lose your temper and you do something that's uncharacteristically, Kirkshin?
All right, I had a little trouble with that one.
You showered
because
when you got home.
I kind of dropped to his level, which
Right.
was that didn't make me any better than him. That's the old cliche.
Mhm.
Top 5 number 29s,
Oh,
according
no.
to Tim Kirkshin. We are so delighted to have him back that we are hogging all his time. We will end this with a bit of a depleted batch of looks like, because we haven't been tending to this game, but we will do the looks like game in a second with Tim Kirkshin. But first, we've got to get our top 5 number 29s, because Stugotz, Mike whispered in my ear while we were talking. And he asked me the question, can anybody in the world do what he is doing right now with this level of expertise,
No.
where you're talking about the sacrifice bunts of Jackie Robinson in 1947?
No.
And my answer to him was, no, I don't believe that there's anybody in the world who can do that. But you should hear these conversations with him and Mike Schur, because they are delightful descents into this world where it sounds like two 8-year-olds talking about a thing that they've never stopped loving. And it is, Tim, I hope that I can get you on with him so people can hear more of these, because we're just smiling around here nonstop to have you back. So let's go top 5 number 29s with Tim Kirkshin. Number 5, Tim.
I don't think I can do this. Let me just explain. I've done what I called from Ozzie to Oral, the greatest players of all time, number 1 through 55, Ozzie Smith to Oral Hershiser. But what I do is I always, once I get to 2, and if there's no competition like 24 with Willie Mays, I usually stop, because there's no point in going on. I was just telling you that Carew was 1, Smoltz was 2, but now I'm going to have to come up with 3 other 29s. I don't think I can do it, and I might not even have their numbers right, but I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. Okay, number 5 is Vince Coleman,
Wow.
and I hope he wore number 29. I'm not even 100% sure.
It's okay,
about
Tim.
that.
You don't need to apologize or feel bad about
We'll check
this,
it,
okay?
Tim.
This is very difficult. What we're doing to you is not terribly fair. You don't have a computer, and I have ratcheted up the stakes. So it's okay if you get some of these numbers wrong.
He wore number 29 4 separate times in his career. When he was Rookie of the Year with the Cardinals, when he was an All-Star with the Kansas City Royals. He played for the Seattle Mariners wearing number 29, and he also played for the Tigers in 97 wearing number 29.
You're good, Tim.
Okay, number 4. God, this could be so embarrassing. Tim Wallach is number 4. His nickname was Eli. He was a really good third baseman for the Expos. So I'm going to go Tim Wallach number 4, and I hope he wore 29.
He did wear number 29. What a great head of hair as well. Remember him, Dana?
I do. Thank you. Number 3.
Again, I'm guessing Chris Carpenter is number 3, and I'm praying he wore number 29.
Oh, but there's going to be a lot of upset legends at your list right
Fred
now.
McGriff is going to get mad, right?
Oh, God. Crime dog. Now, he wore 27 more than 29, I believe.
Wore
So, all
29.
right, Chris Carpenter's number 3. I'm sticking with it. He was great. He was a great big game pitcher.
Number 2.
Number 2 is John Smoltz, first ballot Hall of Famer. John Smoltz came up to me in Miami once, just absolutely, he couldn't see straight. He goes, I know I've walked more than any active pitcher. And then he looks at me, he goes, you're the kind of guy that can find something like that, right? So I checked it out very quickly, and John Smoltz had walked more at that time than any major league pitcher. And he was so excited. He like jumped in the air. Yes, I knew I'd done that. And then later on, Tom Glavine passed him because Glavine remained a starting pitcher and Smoltz went to the bullpen, so he didn't get to bat very often. But he was so excited to find out that, yes, he thought he had led among walks by pitchers, and he was right. So John Smoltz is number 2.
Number 1, you've already told us, is Adrian Beltre an omission or?
No, I forgot. Adrian Beltre, you guys are right. I told you, you blindsided me, you ambushed me. I didn't get it right.
It's okay.
Because
Calm
Rock
down.
Carew still has
It's
tenure.
okay. It's
Right.
okay. Calm
Angry.
down, please.
Catfish Hunter.
Sorry.
Oh, Catfish
Adrian
Hunter.
Beltre
Oh.
needs to be very good. Adrian Beltre needs to be number 3 on this list.
So who was 3? Who's getting bumped off? Who was 5?
Carpenter gets
It's
bumped.
Well,
not-
I can't
Carpenter
stay on
moves
that
to
list.
Where's
4.
Jason Schmidt?
Vince Coleman
Yeah,
is
where's
out.
Jason Schmidt?
No, that was a short run. The Jason Schmidt run wasn't long
It was a
enough.
good run.
It was a good run. It was a great run, but it wasn't Carpenter.
Reeks.
Tim's furious right now. Look at him.
He really
No,
is.
I feel bad because Adrian Beltre is a great third baseman. One of the
Tim, we've got
Maybe.
the entire internet, okay? We're looking this stuff up while you're
Hall of
talking.
Famer,
You're-
though.
And Adrian's going to be fine, Tim. I
You're
promise
doing
you.
this from memory. And now, while we're at it, Tim, just because this is so much fun, I want to start with number 55 and give the people what they want right now. I want best player by position, by name, up to number 55. I want to do it in the reverse order. Are you ready to do it? Just names. You don't have to give us information on each one.
I mean, we all know number 1 is Rod Carew, but he never said it, Dan.
Right.
all right. Well, real quickly on Adrian Beltre, he never wore a cup, which is just amazing to me. The position he played, he never wore a cup playing third base. I asked him, how could you do that? And then he looks at me and he shows me his hands and he goes, that's what these are for. And I went,
Ballsy.
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, that did take balls.
All right. I haven't done From Ozzy to World in a
Let's
long time.
All right, it's okay, but before you do that, I just want to I want to make you giggle because you're someone that we delight in making giggle, and you've been giggling about this for a long time. So, since you mentioned Adrian Beltre doesn't wear a cup, it reminded us quite obviously of one of your favorites. Mo, you're on 790.
I don't know if you know that Julio Franco used to play in Mexico City before he was called up by the Braves.
See?
And so I'm from Mexico City, and I was producing the post-game show of the Mexico City Tigers. He was crushing the league at the time. He had like 5 home runs. That day, he was batting 580 something. So I sent this Latino girl to do the interview after the game because he had a huge game. And she got into the dressing room, and she came out, you know, the Latino skin is kind of light brown, and she came out of the dressing room whiter than Hubie Brown. So I said, what's wrong? And she said, no, please, you need to make this interview. I can concentrate. So I went in with with the microphone and everything, and Julio Franco was the interview naked. Man, it was the biggest monster that I've ever seen, okay? So I concentrate, and I said, hey, Julio, ¿te molesta si te vistes, compadre? Y me dice, well, that's the way I roll. If you want the interview, you have to watch me. And I said, okay, I'll watch you. And man,
What do you have for us, Tim, on Ozzy to oral, oral to Ozzy? This is too hard. What we're demanding of you here?
I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to try. And again, this is my list. It's not the correct list. It's not the only list. It's my list.
You don't
So
have
I
to
don't
give
think-
us, we could just go names. You don't have to give us something on everything if you can do this, but can you do it backwards from 55 down, you think, or is that too hard?
I've never tried it backwards before. So, all right, this
boy.
is really going to be hard.
Degree of
Oral's
difficulty.
55.
Mm-hmm.
Gossage is 54. Drysdale is 53. E. Sabathia is 52. Randy Johnson is 51. 50 is really tricky. I think it's Adam Wainwright now over J.R. Richard, but Mookie Betts climbing very quickly. So that's very, very tricky to know who's going to be 50. But I'm going to go Adam Wainwright, and then a couple years we're going to go with Mookie Betts.
The horse.
Fluid.
49 is Hoyt Wilhelm. 48 is Torrey Hunter, although I think somebody's catching him among actives. Not sure. 47 is Tom Glavine. 46 is Lee Smith. 45 is either Bob Gibson or Pedro Martinez. Please,
Wow.
somebody break that tie. I'm going to go with Bob Gibson, although that's really debatable. I love Bob Gibson. But Dusty Baker once asked Hank Aaron about Bob Gibson. He goes, what's Gibson like? And Hank Aaron says, the young Dusty Baker. He said, whatever you do, don't talk to him. Whatever you do, don't stare at him. And if he knocks you down, don't charge the mound because he will beat your ass. That was Bob Gibson.
Hammer and Hank.
All
I
right.
mean.
44 is Hank Aaron. 43 is Dennis Eckersley.
Eck.
42 is Jackie Robinson for obvious reasons. 41 is Tom Seaver. I'm going to do this. 40 is Bartolo Colon.
Wow.
How about that?
Shocker.
39 is oh my God, I'm gonna have to come back to that.
All right,
I think.
all right, don't
It's
worry
okay,
about it.
Tim.
It's okay,
It's
Tim.
okay.
Tim,
It's
you're on a
okay.
hot streak.
Billy,
This is
Billy brings up a very interesting debate on the number 42, though.
Yeah, that's an interesting debate because Mariano Rivera wore number 42, of course.
what is
So,
what else do you have? Is that what you had, Billy? Mariano Rivera?
I just said Mariano Rivera, number 42.
Mo.
I mean, Tim's not going to be the one to take it away from Jackie Robinson.
No, I think it has to be Jackie Robinson.
Right.
Oh my God, I got to do the radio at 9:35.
Okay,
Oh,
get out of
God.
here. We got to. Okay, we got to give you some looks likes. We got to give you some looks like. Are you ready? We've wasted enough of your time.
I'm late for the radio.
We're gonna waste
This
All
is
right, just
horrible.
quick.
I'm
Just
sorry.
rapid fire. Rapid fire.
Does Vic Fangio look like he owns a plumbing supply company in Brooklyn?
Thanks.
Does Dan Orlovsky look like the devil in a young adult dramedy made for the CW? Does Arthur Blank look like he has a trick up his sleeve that will inevitably fail when he sees Dick Tracy? Does Jay Glazer look like the guy at the strip club who walks your party to your VIP table?
Yes.
See you later,
I have
Tim.
to go. I
We
swear.
love you.
I
We
gotta
love
go.
you.
I
We
love
love you. You heard that sound. That is Stugotz getting the list of culprits to be found in the useless sound montage. Who excited you? I saw Dan Campbell in there. Who excited you, Stugotz?
Fangs.
Fangs is undefeated. Fangs wants everybody in the league. Fangs, the league is a better place when Fangs is relevant. Billy, how has the depths of the dungeon, the useless sound dungeon, felt this week?
Not great. Not great. I'm looking at the list now, and I didn't realize. So Joe Judge doesn't look like he made the list this week, which is a disappointment because Joe Judge is just great. He's an up and coming star, but I guess he just didn't bring it this week. But oh God, I love Joe Judge. Joe Judge might be my favorite coach in a while since Who's my last favorite coach?
Pagano. You love Pagano.
We missed Pagano.
I thought he was still a D coordinator, but he retired, unfortunately. So he's still out. He's out of the league now. He's left us. Well, not us. He's still alive. You know what I mean, Dan?
I do understand.
So Judge had nothing useless after a tough loss at home to the Falcons.
Joe Judge is the most pro-fan coach that I've ever heard. Like, everything he does, he encourages the fans to be booing the players. This is New York. They need to toughen up. It's their job to entertain the fans. It's cute for now. I wonder how long he's going to be singing that tune once they start
Cute
booing
for
him.
now. They
Yeah.
started 0-2 each of the last 5 seasons. They've got to be longing for McAdoo, and we made fun of McAdoo across 2 seasons. His record's terrible. What is he like? Is he 6-14 or something? And they're not. How are they going to get any better?
I don't know. That's for Joe Judge to figure out.
Let's play the useless sound montage.
Vic, what would you say to folks who are like, hey, you're 3-0, but the 3 wins have come against teams that are combined 0 for 9?
Nothing. That's just the schedule. They're right. That's a fact, what you just said.
In college, we used to say, let's go play for 4 quarters or as long as it takes to win.
Your group coming out of this pats on the back or kicks in the backside?
Yes, both.
Interceptions are part of the game, and you obviously don't want to throw them.
Bill, what did you see on Mac's interceptions?
Probably the same thing you saw.
Every play counts, man. Every opportunity counts. Every drive counts.
It's going to take a perfect ball, a perfect snap, a perfect hold, and a perfect kick.
At the end of the day, those people don't matter. When it comes to wins and losses, they're not helping us win. They're not helping us lose.
I don't apologize for winning these games, no matter how we won them.
My expectations were for us to play better than we did.
They had obviously a picket fence, if you will.
The things that we have to correct, we will most certainly continue to work on.
None of us played well enough, him included. None of us coached well enough, me included.
I've worked a lot on just playing the next play.
Just the look in his eyes. I think everybody could tell the way he was running. It seemed angrier than usual. As long as you're going 100 miles an hour, don't be afraid to fail.
I'm not interested in making any plans as I sit here right now, man. I'm just summarizing what transpired in the stadium. We have the upcoming days and hours to plot a course for how we move forward.
There's no real rhyme or reason, I guess. There is a rhyme or reason, but there's no certain situations that I know that I'm going in or don't.
It was a dumb decision on my part. Take full responsibility for it.
I'm not going to point the fingers at anybody else. I'll point the thumb at myself.
That starts with me.
I need to be better. That's on me.
That's why I wasn't dink and dunk. You don't have any time for that.
The defense has a say, too. It's a game of cat and mouse.
It's a loud place, and there were too many doggone Dolphin fans there. I noticed that today.
I'm worried about it, but like I said, I'm worried about everything.
I would never try to give Urban Meyer advice.
That's the way it is in the NFL. You have to take care of business.
Sometimes in this league, that's the way it is. We battled, and then when it was time, we stepped up, made the plays we had to make.
A blessing to have the late registration of Odell come in and play for us.
We're going to be where our feet are planted. We're going to enjoy tonight, and then we're going to come back ready to work.
Players played their asses off today.
We're continuing to get better, finding ways to win. There's never going to be a point where you feel like you've reached the graduation level.
Petered his tail off.
For us, we just have that mindset, not being college dropouts, continuing to get better, and finding ways to win.
We'll take it one at a time.
You got to tip your hat to him sometimes.
That's when you know you're in the zone. So that's the life of Pablo for Kareem.
We had fired all our bullets at that juncture.
He's out there eating. Watch the throne with him.
You take you a deuce. You don't sit there and look at it. You flush it and move on. We're going to flush it and move on.
What?
Music. Yes, that's Jalen Hurts last night, Stugotz.
No
he says, yes, you take the deuce. You don't sit there and look at it. You flush it and move on.
No one loves to plot a course more than Mike Tomlin.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Batard Show. Does anyone like to plot a course more than Mike Tomlin? Jalen Hurts. ESPN said Jalen Hurts was ready. They sent out this video of him dancing on the sidelines, turn this shit up, and then it's flush this shit down. He went they said he was ready, Stugotz.
Yeah.
Hurts is ready, and he's all fired up, and then Dallas smokes him, and you rarely hear a quarterback talk like that at the end. But that was music, Billy. Thank you for making it. Urban Meyer's sorrow is a nice touch. I hear you're dropping him in there because
pain.
he sounds extra
break.
sad. He's gonna break. Is that
Poor
what you're
guy,
saying?
yeah.
National Spotlight on Thursday.
He has never lost 3 straight anythings in his life, right? I mean, there's no way.
and they're really bad. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Jets, Lions, or Jags? It's just the Jets and the Jags that you're talking about now for worst team in the league, right?
It's Jets and Jags. Yeah, the Jets are going to be the worst team.
Yeah, they will be.
They will be. Right. I mean, Urban's trying to win a game or two.
Lions are due. I feel bad for the Lions. At least they're playing hard.
They are.
Well, the Jags played hard. They're just not any good.
Not hard. They're not as bad as the
Yeah.
Jets.
Yeah.
The Jaguars will win.
You guys are saying that these teams aren't playing hard? That's an argument you guys are willing to make, that you don't believe? I think the Jets' offense looks like that, and therefore everyone looks like they're not playing hard because they stink at offense. That's incompetence, Stugotz. You can't watch what's happening in the league right now with the precision of these quarterbacks and look at what's happening with the Jets and not say that's super amateur what's happening there.
That's no offensive line, and it's amateur. But the Jets have been amateur for my entire life, so I'm not surprised.
You saw Spencer Hall tweeted out something that went viral, a 12-year-old showing a play against the Patriots. It was uproariously funny because everything that could be going, it was a work of art. The video breakdown by a 12-year-old of nothing being available to Zach Wilson, and when things are available to Zach Wilson, he's inaccurate on 6-yard outs, Stugotz. Like, you've seen it, right? The difference in he's not in any way ready for what he's in the middle of.
He's not in any way ready for a team that has no offensive line, no wide receivers, no running backs, really not a great defense. Yeah, he wasn't ready for that. I mean, who could be ready for that? No one's ever ready for the Jets, Dan. Okay.
We're seeing across the league that the incoming rookie wonderkin quarterback is not a panacea. We see it with Justin Fields and Zach Wilson now, and Trevor Lawrence and Tua. If the surrounding talent is not there, the quarterback can't lift everything.
My fear is the guy who got the rookie quarterback is the guy who's not playing his rookie quarterback, and that's Kyle Shanahan. Like, maybe he got the one of the 5 that's going to be great, but we don't know yet, and not knowing is a cool thing.
Right.
Because I think we know the other 4 are just okay, at least right now.
Let's get to Matt Sullivan here. Last time we talked to him, people found fascinating the unvarnished look at inside the Nets organization. The name of the book is Can't Knock the Hustle: Inside the Season of Protest, Pandemic, and Progress with the Brooklyn Nets Superstars of Tomorrow. It is available now. And Matt, thank you for making time for us again, because you also wrote this story for Rolling Stone that has everybody talking about Kyrie Irving today. Can you take us through what made this story happen, what you started hearing, and just take us through the reporting on this?
Well, thanks for having me back aboard the pirate ship, Dan. Just before we get started, if I may, I'd like to read a few facts, just because this is an important conversation for people who care about sanity. Fact A, the Moderna vaccine, according to a study published last week in the New England Journal of Medicine, has a real-world efficacy rate in preventing symptomatic illness of 98.3%. Fact B, the Pfizer vaccine is 88.3% effective, according to the same study. Fact C, both of these things are true if you actually take the vaccine. And fact D, Kyrie Irving said in 2017 about satellites, I guess, that, quote, when I started actually doing research on my own and figuring out that there is no real picture of Earth, not one real picture of Earth, and we haven't been back to the moon since 1961 or 1969, it becomes like conspiracy too, end quote, which, Dan, is not in and of itself actually really a fact whatsoever. But this stuff, got me thinking. I've been deep inside Kyrie world for a long time, but the more and more I wondered, with this New York City law now and in San Francisco, that guys basically have to get the vax, right? It's like you can't hide in this kind of secret society of anti-vaxxers anymore. And so America's most progressive cities kind of bailed out America's most progressive league by saying Hooper's got to get vaxxed. So of course, Kyrie, this kind of humanitarian provocateur influencer, he's going to test the bounds of the NBA and science and the law by just potentially refusing to play games here in Brooklyn. So I started tapping all my sources from the book, at least the ones who would still fucking talk to me, and they just kind of ran their mouths.
Well, let's backtrack for a second. You've lost a lot of sources because of the book, because I've seen that Kevin Durant hasn't denied anything that was in the book. You basically reported, there was a lot of reporting in the book, but that the Nets run that organization, that those players, right, that Durant and Kyrie run that organization. That was the bombshell, although it was much more thorough than that, and there was much more reporting. What's the blowback and the fallout been?
I think they're scared. They've been lucky that nobody had to talk until media day on Monday. And I didn't really trust anybody to have to answer for that stuff several months later. And this was the new stuff that mattered to the conversation. Kyrie's people have blown me off, and Kd's friends have said, after I appeared on your guys' show before, and we talked about them smoking weed or whatever, they're like, is this actually fucking real? Or like, stay away from me. I think that's understandable. Some of them maybe didn't know what they were getting into with kind of stuff being always on the record with me. But that didn't stop me from going back to folks who I didn't want to set them up to reveal their true selves, but this vaccine thing matters. And I think Kyrie has always been pretty out there with a lot of his beliefs. He's a good guy too, for sure. But I guess I was replaced at Nets Media Day on Monday by David Letterman. Do you see him out there? Asking me stupid
it was painful. It was painful. It was uncomfortable.
But KD was like, I guess they'll let anyone in here. So anyone but me, I guess.
Did you at all feel threatened? No. Just because it's bodyguards saying they're going to stop talking to you doesn't mean they're going to do anything. I don't feel welcome. We'll see if they let me in the building. And certainly fans have ganged up on me and think I'm some, liar with an agenda out to get KD and Kyrie. But, these are public figures, and they're now in the middle of a major public health crisis. And that's what this is about, right? These guys are role models. And that's what my book was about, is the limitations of influence. And we're seeing role models being put to the test once again.
Can you tell the audience, Matt, for those who haven't read the article, Kyrie Irving's aunt and her viewpoints and what she's talking about? Because I hadn't seen her quoted before.
Kooky Aunt Tyke does a lot of good for the world. She runs Kyrie's foundation, water security in Africa, camps for kids. Kyrie does a lot of good too, without taking credit for it. But man, she just kind of went off the deep end, to be honest. And she's out here talking about, quote, Dr. Falsey, and how, can't put things in your body, and how Kyrie's going to figure this out as it comes with the vaccines. She says you might have to sit on the sideline, you might not be in the arena. And she said, if it's that freaking important to get a vaccine that hell, it's still not preventing the COVID, which we know that it is, then I'd rather them work it out that way than say, hey, if you don't get the vaccine, then you can't be part of the franchise that you fucking helped build. So I think she revealed, and she's definitely one of the closer people in his, increasingly tight circle, who is definitely absolutely familiar with his thinking, but her thinking is full of misinformation. And she talked about that. She went off on that. And I just kind of let her talk. And similar to my phone call to Jonathan Isaac, who, as we know, was the guy who stood up when everyone took a knee during the anthem in the bubble. And I gave him every chance to explain himself too. And he just went off about how he'd stand for the anthem again, about how he doesn't understand why if you're vaccinated, you still have to wear masks in some places. I almost wanted to interrupt him and be like, dude, it's about not killing people. But I tried to let him say his piece and present it as he said it. And he's entitled to his opinion and his religious freedom. But, on Monday, after the article kind of starts going around a lot, he's tweeting about my story. And he sounds like Trump. He's like, true journalism is dying. I believe it is your God-given right to decide if taking the vaccine is right for you, period. More to follow. Which, doesn't that kind of negate the whole point of saying period, to say more to follow? Anyway.
Your reporting on this has been something that has caused a conversation throughout sports. We were talking before you came on about this movement. 10% is more vaccinated than the country, having only 10% of your league not vaccinated, but it pales compared to the WNBA. We were talking about how disposable the bodies are in football or the WNBA. What's happening here with power and player empowerment, and Kyrie knowing that he can get away with just about anything because they run that team and they're an economy around that team. So he's pushing against all these boundaries as this polarizing weirdo, basketball icon.
Well, he's certainly not taking this as a religious exemption as New York lets you apply for. And, he's a practicing Christian and Muslim and reconnected with his Sioux tribe recently, as I detail in the Rolling Stone story. But I think he also reveals how, the Hoopers are just sick of testing. They don't always trust the science, clearly, but if they don't want to have to get vaxxed, they don't want to get tested on their off days. There's a sticking point in the negotiations, which are still ongoing between the PA, the Players Union, and the league, that these guys want to be able to freely go to indoor activities such as lounges and nightclubs, which is a league source said that's always the last sticking point. But I think it's not just Kyrie, Dan. Think about some of these other faces of the league. A league source told me that they've been having trouble getting superstars to participate in public service campaigns, public PSAs for the vaccine to fans. If you think about Black Americans continue to be the slowest to adopt the vaccine, according to demographics measured by the CDC. But think about Giannis. Giannis's brother went into the COVID protocol before Game 5 of the finals. You're telling me that Giannis wasn't a, quote, close contact of him? They hug it out every 5 minutes. And Giannis said, did Giannis say whether he was vaccinated back then? I know he did a media day, but I don't believe so. He is vaccinated now. But once again, there are certain players, Dan, for whom the NBA is just going to look the other way. Science is big, player health is paramount, but the coin don't lie. And let's not forget about LeBron, guys. I don't want to totally go there, but we all remember when he was partying maskless with Drake and Michael B. Jordan in May. And LeBron says it's about me and my family, personal choice, kind of in line with his usual, I'm not educated enough, evasive answer. And if you remember, it forced the head communications officer of the NBA to put out this very awkward clarifying statement about LeBron attended an outdoor event. But it said, under current NBA rules, vaccinated players are permitted to engage in outside activities. It never said LeBron is vaccinated. LeBron never said he's vaccinated. Was he really vaccinated? Is he now because he wants to be, or because LeBron Inc. and Rob Pelinka didn't want to get caught and just want to get through this? I think that's the limits of personal player empowerment here. Is Kyrie wants to be Kyrie, and KD wants to be KD. Harden wants to be Harden. But at some point, it's KD's got to be, yo, bro, get the shot. We got to play. And I think we'll see. Kyrie is an acid test for whether he's really willing to go there and whether the NBA is going to stop influencing on this particular issue for as progressive as they've been on everything else.
The reporting on this from Vince Goodwill is that KD will get him to get vaccinated before this is done. But I'd like to play the sound for the audience. You called her the kooky aunt. Is that the adjective that you used, kooky?
She does a lot of good for the world in running Kyrie's Family Foundation. But, man, she just jumped off the deep end, and it didn't surprise me.
Let's play that sound for the audience so that they can hear her in her own words.
There can be some kind of formula where the NBA and the players can kind of come to this agreement where it's okay, well, we won't play the full 25 games. Okay, because you guys, obviously, in order for us to do that, we must have this vaccination, but we're not getting the vaccination. So what does it look like if we play at least 15 or 10 of these games? And then they can figure out what that looks like, right? If it's that freaking important to get a vaccine, that hell, it's still not preventing the COVID. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that's something that has to be done, then I'd rather them work it out that way than to say, hey, if you don't get the vaccine, you can't be a part of the franchise that you helped build. Excuse my French.
Matt, what do you think the NBA should do?
Well, to be clear, Stugotz, when I put this to the NBA, to some of their most high-ranking medical officials, there is no deal. New York City law requires players to be vaccinated to play home games at the Barclays Center. The Knicks, of all teams, are 100% vaccinated. But the league is in a bind. And they told me, these top medical officers told me, if New York City says this isn't cool, we have to abide by the law. And so it's part of a lot of the eye rolling here. But if Kyrie wants to pull a kind of anti-Kaepernick stand for what he sees as his personal freedom and be a, role model for vaccine deniers, they can't do anything. The league is facing this pressure from the union, which is one of America's strongest unions, and they are just 100% out on the league's 100% desire to get these guys vaccinated, the league's 100% belief in science. And this is really a sticking point. This is really a rubber meeting the road kind of
But
a
the
thing.
union can't set the precedent, Matt. The union cannot set the precedent of allowing the league to infiltrate their their membership's body, physical body, almost under any circumstances, right? You just can't set that as the precedent. This isn't even that hard to understand, is it?
Well, it's hard to understand how some of these conversations with the players' union, going back to the beginning of these negotiations, were, I don't want to say agenda setting was going on with the anti-vaxxers, but these guys were heard. They were given a fair shake. And these are people who explore, or at least group chat, about some pretty crazy shit. And the CDC, again, reminded everyone on Tuesday that the messenger RNA from the vaccine is, quote, present in the body for a short time and is not incorporated, nor does it alter an individual's genetic material, which some people out there on the internet believe. And the young people in the NBA read the internet. And so I don't think it's a stretch to say that some of this out there thinking defines some of the league's other parameters for negotiation, including testing on off days and beyond. I mean, there is no wiggle room coming at all from the PA, and the league is just trying to send out its kind of testing nerds as best as it can. And, you know, they've got monitoring in place, but they can't really punish these guys for ignoring science.
Matt, is what's happening here just the QAnon internet rot brain stuff that is happening when people go down these conspiracy theory holes? Like, is that you're going to get a certain any membership of any kind, you're going to find some people who have this internet rot brain?
I mean, I think there's something to be said for the preciousness of bodies. These guys' bodies are their livelihoods, but they also have top medical professionals around them all day to make sure that they're as healthy as freaking possible, because there's billions of dollars at stake. Sure, young people go down rabbit holes. It's happening in the NFL. You know, forged vax IDs are apparently happening in the NFL, which the NBA told me they would hunt down and sweep state databases for if it happened in the NBA. But yeah, I think it's a bit of the groupthink of the NBA. I mean, I remember this passage in my book. It's right up in the front. It was kind of scary to think. It was like, okay, I was setting up the flat earth stuff, and then I asked Instagram, you know, does Kyrie have like more engagement on Instagram than Trump? This is when Trump was still allowed on Instagram. And they were like, yeah, he does. And I talked to the head of Instagram, and he's saying it's okay. It's actually good for fans to see, you know, famous people who disagree with common thinking. And then your average fan will find out who they find authentic and engage with them. And then like the next paragraph in my book is talking to this 7th grader from Kyrie's old middle school, the star of the basketball team. And he's like, yeah, I love everything Kyrie posts, even the weird stuff. And so I just worry about that cycle of internet misinformation meets celebrity, really at this moment, building up to something potentially dangerous.
Matt, knowing the dynamic of the Nets as you do, how do you see this playing out? Because it's unfathomable to me that he might actually sit out the team's home games, but yet he seems pretty resolute on this. How would you imagine it's going to play out?
Well, he claims there's a plan and it will all come out in due time, which I buy. I think he wants it to be on his own terms, on his own platform. You know, Joe Tsai, the owner of the Nets, has to be pretty frustrated. Sean Marks, the GM of the Nets, has, as I reported in my book, flouted COVID protocols before. I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility for Kyrie to put together some of his religious elements, which he has been expanding over the years. You know, he recently got a tribal ID from the Sioux Reservation at Standing Rock. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to fake his way into this or backdoor his way in through some loophole, but it's kind of either that, don't play, or give in to KD guilt tripping him to do this to win a championship. But we've seen, like, Kyrie doesn't give a shit about skipping games or losing money. Last season, after the Capitol riot, he just ditches the team. And there's some other family stuff involved, apparently, like spiritual, mental break from everything. And he was pissed off about the cop who shot Jacob Blake getting off. But then he just comes back, like, kind of like nothing happened, and claims he's devoted to his team, which he claims now. But he also ducked a question at Media Day like 3 or 4 times about this, but then there was one from like the local sports dude asking a kind of layup question, like, how do you feel about the fans? Like, are you disappointing them? And he's like, you know, they're for my teammates and my followers who care about me, my tribe off the court. So I don't know, Greg. It's like, does he really care about pleasing people, or does he feel like, you know, put upon by the system of the man and Josai making millions of dollars off of his precious black body? That's fair for him to decide, but I don't know what the hell that plan is. And I hope for the Nets championship's sake that it makes a little more sense than things with Kyrie tend to do.
A tweeter writes in, I've been listening since the beginning of this show on local Miami radio. More and more, I am embarrassed by how much of a boomer Dan is now. Kyrie is an adult, not a child. He's allowed to do what he wants with his body without anyone questioning it. Unvaccinated does not equal sick. WTF is wrong with you people? I'm ashamed of this show. They used to see through the bullshit in society.
He's that guy.
Matt, I've got some Bomani Jones criticisms of your article. I don't know if you have seen this or not, but
I just saw him tweet about it. I didn't listen to his show. I love Bomani.
Claiming the anti-vaxxers have taken over the league, a league that's 90% vaccinated. How can you claim that it's been taken over when it's only 10% of the populace?
The NBA is getting there. They're down to, I think, from 60 to 50, maybe under 40 guys we're talking about unvaccinated. I think it's that they speak almost rebelliously for this, I don't want to call it silent majority because that's got kind of a loaded term, but there are more guys who are vaccinated who also feel this way, but they are sucking it up and literally taking one for the team. I don't want to be that guy who claims to understand the nuances of Black history. I've read up on Tuskegee and all that, but there's also a fine line between an excuse and an abdication of your influence. And I was on MSNBC with our friend Jamel last night, and she was saying that these guys need to stop trusting YouTube. You know, Brad Beal should not be out here being the spokesman for personal freedom. You know, why is he an expert on this stuff? Why is Bradley Beal, you know, he's saying, you know, some of these guys say, Kevin Durant says, who is this guy to know anything about hooping who's never played it beyond JV in his life or whatever? But who are these guys to be medical experts just because they're really in shape and have been surrounded by medical experts? And so I totally respect what Bomani's saying and don't want to overvalue these kind of crazy guys and give too much, you know, airspace to like microchip implantation theories. But I think this has been kind of an open secret that it's a bigger deal in this league. And look, it might just be that the NBA, for all of the influence they've had and all the good that they've done for progressive causes, that this is just one that they're not going to lead on.
You can find anyone other than Kareem to make the strong pro-vaccine stance?
I was and still am trying to speak with Damian Lillard, who I thought was an adult in the room for sure. When he spoke at Media Day and just said, you know, this is going to save lives. I got the flu shot when I was a kid. I don't know shit about the flu shot. I think Kareem is incredible. You know, I've known him for quite some time and edited his writing in the past. And you know, I mean, do any of you guys watch that show, Dave, on FX? There's this episode where the main character, this white rapper, who writes a song kind of appropriating Kareem. And then, this isn't a spoiler, but he ends up over at Kareem's house where, let's just say, the rest of us can only hope to be sitting in finely designed mansions someday, sipping like tea in the den by the laptop. But he's like pondering this essay and, you know, trolling the shit out of conservative America with such calm and such grace, such wisdom. You know, he and Bill Russell, the rest of us should all just stop tweeting and listen to them, I think. But there are other adults in the room. Enos Kanter's been great on this stuff, not afraid to call a spade a spade. And the best thing guys like, you know, the adults in the room can do is educate on the level to their teammates and say, yo, this isn't just safe for you and my grandfather and the ref and the coach who's maybe has some underlying condition, but this is good for our team. Like, you saw KD miss a bunch of games last year because he was exposed to someone, I don't know if it was an entourage or whatever, who, you know, was a close contact, similar to what I strongly believe that Giannis was during the finals. And if the NBA takes Giannis out of that game for game 5, 6, whatever of the NBA finals because his brother had COVID, It changes the entire balance of the league. And so this is relevant. This is not just personal freedom. We're talking basketball questions now.
Matt, thank you for being on with us. Appreciate the reporting, telling the audience again, can't knock the hustle inside the season of protest, pandemic, and progress with the Brooklyn Nets Superstars of Tomorrow is available now. And it's an unusual book. This access is really unusual. It's an unfiltered look into that Nets team that you'll find fascinating if it stays together. Thank you, Matt.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Matt.
Are you ready, Greg?
Ready.
Do you want to put your headset on or not so much?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to you, but typically,
doesn't matter.
We'd prefer the
does
headphones
matter,
not directly on the microphone.
That kind of thing.
If you want to hear us back here.
We're going to you here.
All right, let's do Back in My Day. I hope they air all of that. He just had his headset, the only tools he really needs, right? We provide everything else.
Yeah.
All he's got to do is the only job is, and he thinks he's been great today.
I didn't say that.
Oh, yeah.
The listener did.
Right.
The only job is to put on your headset, and he said he was ready, but the headset was on the microphone, and we could have done the rest of the show, and he would have never known that he wasn't hearing any of us.
3 tools. He needs his coffee, he needs his headsets, and of course he needs his inhaler. Okay.
Oh, he forgot it this week. He came in, and that was a great conversation, saying, "Did anyone use my inhaler?" Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Batard Show. Would you use somebody else's inhaler? He was accusing people because he left it here in his seat of somebody coming in and sneaking a few puffs.
I think 3 years ago, someone would have used Greg's inhaler if they indeed needed it. But right now, I think that's the worst possible thing you can share. It's that or a bong. I mean.
Okay. Let's do this. Back in my day. Starting with a cough.
And now,
vigorous
it
cough.
is time to take a trip down memory lane. Here's your guy, Greg Cody, with Back in My Day.
Water. I love and respect water so much. Not so much that I would actually drink enough of it on behalf of my own health, but I'm all in on the idea of water. It is nature's beverage, the fundamentally perfect drink. Yet we take it for granted. We forget that for 5 years in Flint, Michigan, there was a water crisis so severe it flowed urine-colored from the tap. We'd rather look the other way to the fact about 15% of the world's nearly 8 billion people do not have regular access to water. The rest of us, who have as much as we want, not only take it for granted, we disrespect it. How? By forgetting it is perfect as is, by trying to put red lipstick and a wig on the Mona Lisa. There is only one type of real water, the flat variety that can be improved upon only by an ice cube or refrigeration. I go into an upscale restaurant and the waiter asks if I'd like sparkling, distilled, or tap, except he says tap with a pitying sneer, as if ordering tap would be akin to ordering a filet mignon well done with ketchup. Sir, I tell the waiter, not only do I wish tap, I would prefer it be obtained from the bathroom faucet and carried to me in a Dixie cup so I might further celebrate the no-frills, grassroots, elemental joy of this king of thirst quenching. Yes. You know what got me started on this? Was the memory of a recent gimmick by Whole Foods called, I'm not lying, asparagus water. Seriously, it was 2 cups of water with 3 stalks of asparagus standing in it, 473 milliliters of aggressively foul-smelling water for $5.99. There's also something called Smart Water. That's vapor distilled water with electrolytes added. Online, I saw a sign out front of a restaurant that said, if you paid $5 for Smart Water, it isn't working. How gullible are we? Smart Water advertises a distinctive, crisp, clean taste, quote unquote. It neglects to advertise the calcium chloride, magnesium chloride, and potassium bicarbonate. Of course, most of the H2O crowd just sticks with your basic bottled spring water. No problem with that, right? Sure, bottled water uses fossil fuels that contribute to global warming. And yes, 80% of the plastic water bottles end up as landfill and they decompose, leak chemicals that cause health issues, including reproductive problems and cancer. But those bottles sure are convenient, huh? Special pockets for them on backpacks, so how bad can they be? There is a solution to the asparagus water and Smart Water and the scourge of flavored waters and bottled spring water and all the other overpriced versions of what is natural and very nearly free. It is staring at you every time you walk into the kitchen or bathroom. It's your tap, looking at you like a sad face, 2 eyes and a snout. America, Do what we did back when we were too smart to spend big for smart water. Don't let them play taps to the tap. Take a nostalgia trip. Put a glass under your home faucet. Smile as you gently turn the spigot. And let the fall of water fill your ears and your soul as it fills that glass. You'll be so happy you'll feel like tap dancing. I'm Greg Cody, and that's how it was back in my day.
Yes.
You drink bathroom water out of the tap?
Damn right.
Oh, it's delicious.
I not only drink it, I revel in it.
Two Americans.
Oh, fantastic.
Have any numbers come out yet on the third Manning cast? They are now taking 3 weeks off, Stugotz. They are doing this their way, and they're going to have a successful thing on their hands. The ratings more than doubled from the first week to the second, and now you have your viral moment as the Mannings are working blue. Eli Manning impersonating a 9-year-old who gave him double middle fingers had to apologize for going double middle fingers on ESPN2. I don't believe that's happened at ESPN since Pablo Torre did it accidentally on our show. And did he have to apologize for that? I don't remember whether he had to apologize, but more people were obviously watching Eli and Peyton, and it's a good show. They're going to get better at that. That show's only going to get better. It's not going to get any worse, and it's fine the way it is. They had a whole lot of star power joining them last night during the game as well.
They had 800,000 viewers in week 1. They jumped to 1.9 million in week 2. I haven't seen the numbers yet for week 3, but I do know a lot of people. A couple of interesting things happened. I heard Max Kellerman this morning talking about the game and reference that broadcast and not the Monday night broadcast, which is interesting. And people are now upset that Eli and Peyton are going to be gone for 3 weeks, which is funny because they were criticizing that show after the first week.
Yeah, there's a little. I think the hype is getting to be a bit much. I'm already having a little.
Pump the brakes on the Mannings after 2 weeks. Pump the brakes.
I'm ready for the 3 week break. I'm having a little Manning fatigue.
You watched?
Yes, I watched the first week. Yeah, and the star power of the second week did not lure me to watch. I like the idea of it. I like the idea they're trying something totally different. I like the idea that, they're doing what Monday Night Football tried to do with Dennis Miller and Tony Kornheiser and just color outside the lines, and it's working. But, yeah, there's a little brake pumping going on here with me.
You mentioned Tony Kornheiser, and I didn't want the day to go by without talking about this for a second because PTI begins. ESPN can celebrate itself pretty well, and PTI deserves the celebration. Television shows don't last that long, and they celebrate 20 years on the air today. And some of you are old enough to remember that time slot used to go to Roy Firestone and Up Close. He did a daily interview show. It was popular, and it was during the heyday of ESPN. And then that time slot sort of died for a while. And then these two newspaper writers came in because it's hard to get a guest every day. Roy Firestone was a very good interviewer. He's actually an entertainer. You should YouTube. He's like a lounge act in Las Vegas. He loves to sing and dance. And he was the premier sports interviewer. He would get you to cry on his show. And so that was a time slot that had some heft at ESPN. And then Tony and Mike came in, and they were questioned. And Stugotz, if you just saw what happened with Highly Questionable, one of the great prides of my career is somehow being able to, with my father, almost get like a day or two from 10 years as a television show. These dudes have been doing that twice as long, and at the center of your daily viewing habit. And even if you've gone off and you've left the grid, you no longer watch ESPN, those dudes were a part of your daily sports consumption in some ways across 20 years of successful television that, the ratings are down now because they are everywhere across, because streaming is eating everything up, but it's still a powerhouse television show 20 years in.
Their dynamic and chemistry is what makes it that show the show. I remember seeing it like the first time, and it was jarring. I think it was jarring to a lot of people because you had the thing on the side, which was teasing topics that were coming up. But what they did, which was so great, especially for someone like me, It was like the Cliff Notes version of the biggest stories in sports. They gave it to you in like a minute or less, and they just kept moving on.
And how to think about it, right? Replace, sort of cannibalize Sports Center, because it wasn't anymore just give me news and highlights. They ended up getting bigger ratings than Sports Center because they were giving you the news and how to think about it.
But in a half hour, that's exactly right. They would give you all the news, and they would give you two different opinions on, and sometimes they shared the same opinion, but for the most part, they disagreed on how to view that particular topic. It was just such a smart show.
I don't think for the most part they disagreed. I don't think of that as an argument show the way that I think of First Take as an argument show.
Oh, I'm not saying it was First Take, but I think Michael and Tony, they have some fundamental disagreements on some stuff.
Not too many.
I mean, you would know better. You're very friendly with them, and you've done the show. So.
But even when they do disagree, there's a civility to that show that you don't see often. And when you contrast it with Stephen A. Smith and the bluster and the loudness, it just, PTI always seemed like a show that was for adults and a show that appealed to not just diehard sports fans, but to intellectuals, perhaps.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this, as that show birthed a couple of different kinds of pioneering, because that changed television, that graphic of telling you what's coming up next. That was the first place you found it. Now you see it all over business television and everywhere else. It'll be the enduring legacy of that show. But am I biased or correct, or maybe both, when I say that whatever judgment I might pass on the argument show, First Take is a contrivance, or, Shannon and Skip just arguing for the sake of arguing because it's content and we're all just fooling around. Didn't PTI feel like not that, a level above that, because of the two guys? And I didn't consider it an argument show, but maybe Stugotz's opinion on this is, yes, the conceit is the black guy and the old white guy, they're friends, and they yell at each other and they disagree, but they disagree like friends.
Perhaps I didn't say it exactly the way I wanted to say it. I marveled at their chemistry. I did not know they had a friendship entering that show. I marveled at their chemistry. It just seemed like they were having sports discussions, and there were disagreements, but they were doing it, as Greg pointed out, in a way that was friendly, in a way that you would talk to your friend. I don't agree with my friends on every single sports topic. It's what they were doing in the Washington. I also don't yell at them when they disagree.
It's what they were doing in the Washington Post newsroom, yelling at each other, cursing, that they just then decided to televise.
It started debate shows. It did. People took that template from the running topics to the two guys just talking about sports, debating one side and the other side, and they continue to run with it. But that's what sparked debate culture as a show.
But there's an erudite quality to both guys. And I think together, you always get the sense that you're listening to a conversation more than a debate. That's the way I always received it as a listener. I was just hearing these two friends, both very intelligent guys with strong opinions, but having a conversation, not an argument every day.
Couldn't you make the argument that it's the greatest sports television show of all time? Like, couldn't you have that conversation?
If we're including studio shows, college game day,
but I'm talking about daily
NBA.
shows. I'm talking about daily shows. I'm not talking about weekly shows.
Daily studio
that's sort of a different conversation.
You think it's better than Sports Center?
I mean, it has to be that or High Heat with Chris Russo.
I think that you end up having such a giant cultural imprint because you feel like you know these guys, even though you just saw them on television, and the routine of seeing them age in front of you over 20 years, although Kornheiser has looked that way.
Yeah, they've both been kind of old.
Time.
And now it's like a super cranky show where both guys just keep yelling at me that they had something right before. That I called that. Oh, I had that.
Or Wilbon yelling about the arrogant NFL.
Yeah. I mean, this is a testament to how long they've been on television, but I haven't been surprised by an opinion on that show in 15 goddamn years.
Neither have they from each other. Neither have they from each other. That's
like just Wilbon surprised me once.
No, the two of them will not surprise each other. It's why Kornheiser loves me but hates doing the show with me, because he doesn't know what kind of feces I'm going to throw around, and he loves doing it with Wilbon because he knows exactly what Wilbon's going to say on everything.
With all that said, I still love it. I still really love it. It's their chemistry. It's their friendship that makes that show. It's fantastic.
And as an old guy, I appreciate that they're older guys too. And it's so hilarious to me, the times I've been on Kornheiser's radio show, the lead-in music while I'm on hold is like Benny Goodman and Frank Sinatra, and it's like really 50s.
That's your guy.
Yeah, that's my guy. That's my guy. And I think PTI has taken on that vibe because they're both aged. I think they've aged gracefully, and they continue to be a great advertisement for surviving newspaper journalism and flowering in a whole new career. I'm very proud of both of them.
Oh, wow. Very parental right there. Very paternal, even though they're Kornheiser's older than you
I think
are.
he is. That's why I like him. People older than me, I gravitate to.
The rare person.
Yeah, it really is. Rarer and rarer.
It's in the conversation for most impactful sports television show that we have ever seen, and can't last that much longer.
Are you including SportsCenter?
I mean, whatever. We can argue about it if you want, but I'm just saying, like, you can put it in that conversation. It's
Agreed,
it's not a ridiculous thing to say. And what I'm telling you is how unusual that is to have not just the 20 years, but the intimacy of the rhythm of, especially now that everything's abnormal in the world. They're gonna appear just about every day, and they're going to be comforting to me, and that shows graphics that haven't changed. All of it's going to be something that I'm used to, and it's just going to stay there and be the strongest thing that ESPN has in its daily programming lineup. And they created a block of television out of Washington, whether it was highly questionable or around the horn. It was outside of the auspices of ESPN, and it started with those two grandfathering in a whole parade, Stugotz, of print journalists, because he says parentally that he's proud of them. Those guys opened the door for all of this that's around here. People have heard me tell the story that this whole thing is a recreation of me going into their studios when they were in the dungeon underneath where it is that they filmed, and in the room where they were creating the show, I'm like, oh, I want this. I want this in my life. Whatever this is in here that was better than what it was on the air. Just a bunch of people screwing around. I'm like, that's the birth of the radio show, really, Stugotz, for the energy of everybody gets to talk and everything else. That's where I got permission to do it. And they grandfathered in all of these journalists, all the Minas and Pablos and Bomanis, and this age of journalism. They grandfathered all of it, or godfathered all of it in.
Star-making vehicle. GOAT status #1 overall has to be SportsCenter, because you want to talk about actually changing pop culture. Yeah. That's #1 with a bullet. PTI, probably #2, #3 best damn sports show, period, with the original cast. Love that show.
It's a good show.
Yeah, it was
ahead of its time.
It was damn good, and it was at a, like, now I'm not watching PTI at the time that it's on. I'm doing other things, but nighttime after the regional sports coverage is wrapped up concluded, and go right into best damn sports show, period. Loved it.
Was that Chris Rose, the original host?
Chris Rose, you had Tom Arnold, you had John Sally.
It was a good show. I want
Marco Farr.
Now, this isn't John Sally and Rob Dibble as well, right? Those were later incarnations?
Yeah, well, they had incarnations of Dibble. Like, Chris Rose was constant. Arnold left after, like, the first couple of seasons. Sally stuck around, but then also left. I think he spun it into, like, his own show, too.
Michael Irvin was he on the
I
early
was
stages?
just reminded in researching it that Michael Irvin was there for a hot minute.
He's been on everything, Michael Irvin.
I mean, yeah. You can say that again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're hitting him in the face with a speed bag. Look at him. He looks sour. He's got nothing.
What's week 11? What games are there week 11?
Right?
I'm on it.
What games are there week 12?
This is not why you listen.
Hey, we could either listen or we could go look on the internet and see who plays when.
Can you think of any lazier entertainment than talking about the NFL schedule? Don't you expect better
I
from
got your
this
week
show?
12 slate right here.
No, we do it, man.
11.
I was going to come on and read the TV guide for you guys, just so you could know what's on every night, like scripted television.
So I have week 11. Mike has week 12. Which one do you want?
I wish that the audience could see Bill Lawrence's relationship with his son. I will talk about Ted Lasso in a second, but your son has clearly grown up in a funny household, and I think he respects you, but he is funny. How old is he? How would you explain your relationship with him to the audience? Because he's laugh out loud funny, but he's also got like way too much entertainer in him.
Yeah, well, you know, he's got all my kids have the trademark of completely unearned confidence. You know what I mean? Which I think is like something that you can bestow upon your children really easily. Yeah. Yeah, by the way, I see a father-son dynamic here that has that. a couple of them actually.
There you go.
No, man, I don't know how. I know a bunch of you have kids, but I had a boy and a girl, and I wanted 2 kids, and my wife wanted 3, so we compromised and had 3 kids. And the Henry, and he's just a disaster. He couldn't be more fun though.
Well,
so
that's the part I want you to. That's the part I want you to share with the family. I don't know if he reminds you at all of yourself when you were younger, but yes, he's got an enormous amount of unearned confidence.
Yeah. And by the way, and it's getting him nowhere in life other than occasionally when you're nice enough to point it out. But yeah, he's Henry Lawrence Rush chairman. He's damn glad to meet you. You know what I mean? I think he's going to keep playing that game and see how far it gets him. He's I tell you right now, I hope he doesn't. So he's playing water polo this year, and that's the sport of Speedos. And there is no kid in the world that thinks whether it's true or not that he should be wearing a Speedo and nothing else more than Henry Lawrence, man. And he'd wear it to school if I let him.
Right. He thinks he looks great. Yeah.
So is he vastly more confident than you were as a kid?
I was, look, yeah, we had about the same. I was as loud as he was, and as relentless. But I was not nearly as self-confident. I was still, you guys remember what it was like back then where someone could unravel you in the hallway just by a look, being like, that kind of skeptical jock look with a head nod, and then you were an asshole all day. Excuse me. So I think the kids are nicer to each other now. So there's not as many people aren't being as safe, in the halls.
Is there a little bit of a visual flex here? I don't know if you can move the computer at all. What do you got behind you there? There looks to be some gold. There looks to be some gold.
Oh, yeah. Check that. Look at that, man.
What's happening back there?
Wow. It's a lot of awards, you guys. I'm sitting here in the table.
A couple of Emmys.
Please, we've been begging us to ask you. Please tell us about all your awards.
Very, very inconspicuously placed.
This is a guest room, and I literally just put them on that table, and now I look like a tool.
Yeah. Just happened to be there, huh? Yeah.
By the way, that is like a step below wearing it around my neck, like Flavor Flav, like a clock.
And how many Emmy nominations was it? It was how many wins and how many Emmy nominations?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'd probably guess like 20 nominations and 7 wins if I had to guess.
Sounds like 13 losses, though, Bill.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest now. See, some of those nominations are people against each other. So,
right.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? That kind of critical acclaim, you couldn't have seen any of that coming.
Nah, look, man, I'll tell you what's funny. My table was literally right next to Mike Scherr's. And we totally true. And had a couple drinks before and we were talking. And he was like, he said, I think Dan and the guys, they always try to pit us against each other because they say, I'm a poor man's Bill Lawrence and you're a poor man's Mike Scherr, and it's all fake. I'm like, and for me, it's not fake. I'm like, first of all, no, I don't accept that premise. And I've found it annoying forever and ever. But look, I think awards by their nature are silly. And so my own personal thing was, they're cool to get because, you get to do make more things that you like and do more work. And that's why they're important. But I went from thinking they were silly, and then I got caught up in the joy of it. And then I went in the shame self spiral of actually caring about it too much. And then I got my fake cool on by the end of the night again. That was my plan.
Did it feel like pressure that was any way overwhelming? Because you're confident and you had the success, but good God, it seems unpleasant to endure the pressure of critical acclaim during a pandemic, feel good show of the time, and then to have to do season 2? Or do you jump into season 2 like super invigorated because you're like, oh my God, this is all my dreams coming true?
Yeah, I think if you're chasing, what people are going to like, you always fail, man. It's you guys have all seen, you're all TV and movie fans. How many times have you seen like, hey, John Wick comes out, so here's and it worked. So here's 9 cheap copies of John Wick that no one will care about, And so I think if you try to live up to some arbitrary bar that's been set, you're doomed. And we were lucky that we kind of plotted out this show beforehand. I think I probably should feel pressure more, but I think it's a goof that my only other job my whole life was painting houses, and to actually get paid to do this stuff. I mean, it's literally a stone's throw from getting to paid to do what you knuckleheads do all day, you know?
Well, once you've had
Talk
that
about,
one,
as you know, which is
Yes.
talking endlessly about football schedules.
and I have week 11, Mike has week 12 if you ever want to get to it. But does it get more difficult writing when you've had that big first season? Does it get more difficult writing? Because you have your own standard, Bill. So I'm wondering, with each passing episode, does it get more difficult to write?
You know what? I'd tell you, I'd be remiss if I didn't give props to Sudeikis in this too, because he is. Everybody goes, "Oh, it's Ted Lasso," but the dude is the head writer too, and I think in a good way, I can kind of shovel some of that pressure on him because his face is front and center. Do you know what I mean? And I think that the hardest thing about doing shows, and Mike might tell you if he's ever being honest with himself, that I don't know why I'm just taking a random shot.
No,
at it.
you got
But,
people need to know this is a legitimate feud, and Mike Schur has been jealous of Bill Lawrence the entire time. Bill Lawrence was always more successful, Mike Schur, and Mike Schur was the poor man's Bill Lawrence. This is a real thing. I don't care what.
By the way,
anybody says.
the funniest thing you guys might not even realize, so part of the Emmys was like you get caught up in it, and then this show Mike's Hacks came in and won a couple awards in the middle, and then everybody's like, oh, and so in my head I'm going, I don't care, and then I started to care, and then if our show loses to Mike Schur's show, I'm going to rush the stage and tackle him.
Hey, good money to see that.
Bill, I know it's been such a big year for you. It all started with your appearance on the Greg Cody Show podcast, and then all the Emmys followed. I mean, I can't imagine. But and by the way, I'm still waiting to see the show decal on the background in season 2. But we're going to wait for that.
Oh, look real close. What is your question?
Okay, I'm getting
There
to
is
it
none.
because believe it or not,
what is your question?
okay, despite that buildup, this is actually a serious question, Bill, because mental health has been in the news. You know, Naomi Osaka, Simone Biles, and it's a theme now on season 2, mental health and professional therapy. I wonder how that avenue happened and what the thinking was there, and whether that was daring at all or a difficult right to do that.
No, it was something that's near and dear to Jason's heart, and he kind of he wrote that episode, the first season, of him having panic attacks and trying to kind of realistically do it. And we kind of dove way into it. There's a killer. You guys watching those documentaries, Untold, on Netflix? They did Malice in the Palace, and they did a killer one on Marty Fish. And as a tennis nerd, I played tennis my whole life, I never even knew why, because Marty was playing in the round of 16 against Roger Federer in the US Open. He just didn't come out of the tunnel. And I never knew it was a massive anxiety attack, And look, I got just as many buddies, and I've heard stuff coming out of my own mouth before watching athletes, of going like, oh, geez, you get paid so much to play a game, just chill out and enjoy yourself. But once you get to see some of these people or meet some of them in person or dive into these stories, man, they're just kids and they're put under such a white hot spotlight, And so, yeah, it was a cool thing to kind of try and look at the second year, just because it seems like it's coming into the zeitgeist everywhere right now. Yeah.
We were happy to see it for you. I don't know if you do much of this, because I don't know that these things in your mind are based on merit or not. But do you believe Scrubs was a better show, or do you believe, I don't know if
Ted Lasso?
I don't know if you do any comparison shopping on that stuff, but I don't know where your pride resides on those things. Do you believe it's the best work of your career, or just the most acclaimed?
Man, that's so hard. That's a stone's throw from, it's gonna sound corny, from going, which kid is your favorite? And it's Henry. The other two don't listen. No, I had a blast with all of them. Every show, for me, I don't really rate these things next to each other. It's just kind of what their experiences were in your personal life. And so you guys would imagine this would freak you out, is Spin City, the first show I ever created. I grew up watching Mike Fox's, and Back to the Future and Family Ties and stuff. And then to see him saying stuff I wrote, never have that experience again. I'm sure it's like the first time, that you got behind a mic, Dan, and got to, and actually worked, you know what I mean? And Scrubs, I literally still hang out with all those people. I did it from age 29 to 37. I had all my kids essentially on that show. My wife was pregnant constantly, while she was in the show. And then this new one, I think the interesting thing is you reach a point in your career where you're like, oh, maybe I'm just kind of cruising along for a while. And so it's kind of reinvigorating to have a little bit of a second wind, but I don't really compare them, that much.
So you can see growth from here though, right? Because now it's going to be nothing but opportunity. So you're going to be able to feed the creative freedoms you've always, the itches you've always wanted to scratch get scratched now, right?
Yeah, well, it's what you guys are doing. I think that you get to a point that if you get to not only make things, but make things with people you want and work with the people that you want to spend time with anyways. I mean, isn't that the cheeriest gig of all, is getting to hang with people, that you would spend time with, even if you didn't have to work together, and being, able to kind of just watch them succeed, kind of the same way that you got to. I mean, that's the fun of this thing.
Very cool. Happy for your success, Stur. Thank you for checking in.
Thanks. And by the way, email afterwards, just 11 weeks, 11, 12, 13, just
you
to
want
know.
them? I mean, okay, I'll email them.
You want to just go through them right now? Real
I'll give
quick?
you my 2 cents on what the flex game should be.
All right, go ahead.
Nobody
No,
can
let's
watch
do that
every
right
game.
now.
No one
Let's
has televisions.
do that.
All right.
I have week 11. It's Giants Bucks. You know what it could be? Chiefs and Cowboys. Chiefs and Cowboys. We're stuck with Giants.
If only there were a way for every football fan to see every single game, no matter when it's on. That'd be perfect.
Do you want week 12 now, or you want us to email?
Go ahead. Do the whole schedule with him. Go ahead.
Week 12 Sunday night, we got Browns at Ravens, so that's not going anywhere.
Oh my God, Michael, what are you doing? Don't humor it. Thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure. See you guys.
See you, buddy.
Thanks.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
Would you agree, Stugotz, even though the Pittsburgh Steelers offense has looked super limited, that you can watch Najee Harris and just see it? You can see in Najee Harris, you can see that
you made him Cubano.
I put a Y in there where the J is, but you can see that this is a good player, correct?
Yes, he passed the sniff test. Yeah.
Here's the stat of the day. He has been hit at or behind the line on 70% of his carries.
Wow.
Highest in the league. 7 out of 10 times he has handed the football, he is hit. This is a very unpleasant way to spend your Sundays.
He gets stopped before it starts. I mean.
And that's just the rushing attempts. All his targets are also behind the line of scrimmage, too.
He is fighting very hard for 1 and 2 yards at a time in a very constipated offense. That was their fountain of youth for Roethlisberger.
That was a big plan.
And look at what the Bucs did for Brady. And that plan's not a terrible plan. That's a good running back.
They needed to upgrade the running back. I think they certainly did. I think there's a better running back than James Conner. The offensive line is getting 0 push.
The Bucs are talking to Richard Sherman.
Of course they are.
Brady's just bringing them all in. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's amazing that he has 140 rushing yards when you consider the stat you just gave us. Like he should win the rushing title.
Are we going to do Patriots storyline stuff as Tom Brady returns? I mean, I feel like people have Patriots fatigue.
Are we, or is the nation at large doing it?
No,
because that is cranked up already to about 11. I don't know if you saw the Sunday night promo.
I did.
It
Oh
went
my
super
God.
viral.
Yes.
It's already the talking point on most of the daytime television that I've seen. I know NFL Countdown is actually going out to Foxborough for that game. It's going to post a massive number on Sunday Night Football with this kind of hype around it.
Massive number, agreed. Brady wants nothing to do with it. Predictably, he said it's not a time to reminisce. This is business.
Right.
I'm on a business trip. I love that.
And Belichick likewise is going to be very sparse with anything that amounts to a great quote regarding this, but we've waited 2 years for this. I mean, it's the buildup. This is what we waited for. the minute that Brady left Belichick to go to Tampa, this game is what we've all been waiting for. And I agree with Mike. I think it's going to be the highest rated game in many, many years.
It's fascinating that you guys would see it that way, and it makes sense. But you're not talking about football there, because as a football game, I mean, maybe that'll be interesting, but it's all story that's grabbing you there. This sport doesn't do that well. Basketball does the personality stuff, but this is him going back when no one gets the good exit as a champion, and they're going to cheer him. They're going to respect him. He is going to get one of, and among everything else that he's gotten in his career, just winning beyond any measure of winning we've ever seen. Never mind in that sport, just in general, just the ridiculous athlete for our time. He's going to go back there and he's going to get the ending right by going back there and demanding their respect too, because they didn't value him enough at the end. He won't get booed. He's going to get nothing but how long is that standing ovation going to be?
It's going to be long. He shouldn't get booed. There's always a couple of people out there. You betrayed us. You left us. You won a Super Bowl elsewhere. You should have been a Patriot for life. But for the most part, it's going to be a rousing standing ovation. He deserves it. I think even Patriot fans, Dan, have seen, man, that had a lot more to do with Tom Brady being our quarterback than Bill Belichick being our coach.
From a game standpoint, I kind of get what you're getting at. I'd rather watch Rams Bucks like I did on Sunday as opposed to Patriots Buccaneers. But I do think from a tactics standpoint, it is a fascinating. I know it taps into the storyline, but you have a quarterback and a defensive brilliant mind in Bill Belichick that know everything the other one's going to be doing. And they know that the other person knows that. How do they match up with that? Tactically, I'm just fascinated by what Belichick does on defense to try to unsettle Tom Brady.
I think the moment that Brady is introduced and the reaction from the crowd is going to be just one of those emotional moments that you remember for a long, long time, because his whole career is building to this. And it's, there aren't that many moments where you get goosebumps or you're moved to tears by sports, but I think this actually could be one for all he's done for New England. And now this is really perhaps their one and only chance to say thank you in this manner.
Such a perfect slot Sunday night as you guys yell and scream at each other about flex schedules. That is...
Well, you don't need schedules. You don't need records. You just need Brady and Belichick, and Brady coming back to New England. That's all you need.
It's so cool just to have football, though, because football by itself is enough. Football to get you on a Sunday or a Monday, football conquers all. The most watched television programs in America, football. But for a story to be what lures you in, it's got all the elements. It's stardom, it's returning champion, it's the stuff, the tactical stuff that Mike is talking about. I would love to see the Mannings have a second screen experience on this game, on the Sunday night game.
Oh, I can't wait till Peyton actually has a Tom Brady game to do a second screen experience. But this is all just unrelenting dominance of a sport that is drawing you in, because I know Brady is handsome as all get out, and he's become a personality, especially on social media later in his career. But Bill Belichick isn't going to give you anything. It's just everyone acknowledges, kind of like that Derek Jeter space. Yeah, these aren't necessarily super interesting people, but I'm watching because they are the greatest to ever do it.
They will give you nothing. They will give you nothing for the wrestling promo. Nothing. Zero.
Zero. Less than zero if that were possible. But this deserves to be a great game. It's one of these matchups that Tampa could win by 4 touchdowns, and it wouldn't surprise anybody, but it needs to be one of those 37-34 games befitting of these two legendary guys who are suddenly, for the first time, combatants. It's just such a wonderful scenario.
It'd be nice, but I think I want a blowout. I do. I think I want Brady to blow Belichick out.
Well, NBC will do well to zoom in on faces, because I think I'll stay with that just to see if I can get anything on either of their faces, which, by the way, both faces barely move at this point in their lives. But all the questions need to go to Gronk and Antonio Brown in terms of a return storyline, because Brady's not going to give us what we want. He's a veteran. He's played this game. Brown and Gronk, they'll give us a quote.
It is pretty amazing that Gronk's returning too. No one cares. I mean,
right.
He might be the greatest tight end we've ever seen. No one cares.
He is a little bit in the shadow of Tom Brady, but yes, I would say you could make the argument that polar bear doesn't have a precedent, that connection, that it's the two of them returning, that
Could Gronk get a ladder ovation?
they will shower Gronk in plenty of love as well. How do these ovations work? Because Tom Brady's not going to want to be coming out to the crowd and waving and stuff. They're probably going to try and rope him into ceremony, but why would you think he's
there won't be a ceremony for him. The ceremonies are for after your career. There's
but so how does he get the standing ovation? I'm saying
when he runs out onto the field after a kickoff or whatever. When he rolls out onto the field, there will be a deafening. Is he one of the designated team captains? Will he be out there for the coin toss? The vogue thing in the NFL right now is to change your captains for the coin toss every game. So he probably won't be out there for that, but when he runs out to the field to take his first snap as a Buccaneer at Foxborough, I imagine it might be one of those moments where everyone sinks into it. It'd be funny if they actually start the play clock and don't allow for that drama to settle in.
It is such a funny way to see the prism of Patriot dominance, to look at the last 20 years and the way we're talking about this game, and now trying to imagine the Bills, Jets, or Dolphins having a similar type of moment from the last 20 years. Like, you don't even know who you'd throw in there to be a famous person anyone cares about, because of the Patriots just squashing the entire division. Making the Bills not make the playoffs for 17 years. The Dolphins didn't win a playoff game for 20 years.
But no one's
and then the Jets are the Jets.
Yeah, but no one's ever had this career. You'll never see a moment like this or a tandem like this again, I don't think.
I'm saying they got to have it, and what should be applauded is the AFC East that night. They should take them off of the field and just the entire AFC East. You want to see why you're this dominant? Here it is. All of these bums.
Here's JP Lawson.
Here's ladies and gentlemen, Joe Philbin.
I forgot about Philbin already.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cleo Lemon.
Adam Gase, everybody.
Yes. He's a two-time honoree. Adam Gase. He's like platinum level.
You can just do 20 years of that. Rex Ryan's fake teeth, ladies and gentlemen.